So, one thing I want to mention is my mother used to blame an attachment disorder on everything. She used to think I was out to get her. Now, I just mentioned Venezuela, this time I spent in there. When I was in Venezuela, I only got a certain amount of money to spend. But I spent all that money on a gift for my mother. I didn't want, I wanted to get one thing for me as a souvenir and one thing for my mother. The only problem was I only had enough. The guy would not drop his price. Then when I went back, the store was closed. And here's the thing, I knew Venezuela was dangerous. I knew out being by myself at a young age, white, with wealthy parents, it was dangerous for me to be going out by myself. I knew that. But I would ask constantly to check on this store and see if they were open. Why? All because at a restaurant my mother and father liked, my mother wanted to buy this giant alligator that was made out of wood as a decoration. She wanted it so bad. She kept on saying to her, she hinted at first like 4 times. Then she outright said, I want to get that and bring it back. My father said no. Then she kept on bugging that she wanted to buy this giant alligator made out of wood. But when I was looking for a souvenir in a store, I saw an exact replica of that wooden alligator. I'm almost absolutely sure whoever carved the wooden alligator, the giant one for the restaurant, also makes these different sized ones at the store because they had two different sizes. They had one mini one and one bigger one. And I got the bigger one for my mother. It was maybe only a foot. Well, maybe probably less than a foot. Less than a foot. I would say a half a foot. But it wasn't like the hand-sized one that was only the size of your palm. He had mini ones that were like for your desk, maybe. This one was a bigger one for your desk. This one was a little bigger, probably the size of your foot or a little smaller. If you're a size 9, it's probably the size of your foot. Um, or if you have big long fingers like me, it's probably the size of your wrist to your fingertips is the one I got her. But she wanted this giant one, but I knew my father wasn't going to get it for her because how the hell would you get it back and customs and all that. So as a cancellation prize, as a gift to my mother, the last of the money, the only money I had to get a souvenir and come back, I kept on going by myself, feeling like this might be dangerous, just to see if this store was open to get that alligator for my mother. I really wanted to get that alligator for my mother. Why? Because I was attached to her. I was trying to give her love constantly. Even at the age of 19, I was bailing out my father out of Social Security and, oh, sorry, out of court with the state for theft of Social Security. Well, it would have been, they would have charged it as fraud on the paperwork for the program, a misappropriated funds. So those would be the two. He's filling out paperwork illegally with the program, and then that's causing me to fill out paperwork improperly with different state programs, and the state wasn't notified, causing them to fill out paperwork improperly. So there would be paperwork type charges on there because he signed his name, and they always put on the print, you know, lying on this paper or giving false information is punishable by a fine of so and so and 2 years in prison, or they always have that fine print at the end or whatever. I don't think my father realizes that when you sign state paperwork, Social Security paperwork, program paperwork, there's fine print when you try to read it that says if you lie on the paperwork, it's illegal and it's punishable by a certain amount. I've always saw that print because I've filled out a lot of state paperwork in my lifetime. That's the part that caught my eye, is how you can get in trouble. The questions, I don't even understand how to answer them. But that statement that was told to me on the paper, I understand that. If I lie, it's illegal and it's punishable. That I understood. My father apparently missed reading that part or didn't care. So the charge, and I bailed him completely out. So obviously I was attached in giving them love. If I'm willing to have my father steal from my money, I'm missing out on my classes, I'm going to get thrown out of my housing. I was supposed to get my own apartment. That was the program's plan for me, to get my own apartment. Instead, it's all come crashing down. And now my father wants to lie to the family and say I'm coming home to take care of mom at 19. So he's totally destroyed what was mine to begin with. And I still bailed him out. And he was only supposed to hire a lawyer and keep my Social Security going. That was his only repentance. That was the only thing he agreed to do, and the only thing I asked him to agree to do in return. And he couldn't even do it. He was such a bad father that he couldn't even do it. He's okay with throwing money at a problem, but giving love, listening, understanding, trying to keep his honor or his word, those things didn't matter when it came to me. He was allowed to just do whatever he wanted to my body, me, my money, my friends, whatever, yell at my friend. Oh my God. Oh, there was this black girl I had over, and yes, I might have been using her for sex when I was real younger. When I got older, I treated her right. But anyways, she thinks my father is racist still to this day. I met back up with her when I was homeless in Lawrence by chance, and she still thinks my father is racist no matter what I say. Yeah, that's how my father. I try to tell her, no, he's not. He's just treating me. He does this. My friends, me, anybody around me, he'll treat like shit. My mother did it at first, but when my mother passed away, he was depressed and he figured, oh, I'll take it out on my son. And then, of course, I'm supposed to sit and take it. I'm not allowed to act up against him. If he smacks me and I smacked him back, I'd probably be arrested for elderly abuse, something like that. But if they smack a child, no, that's not abusive. No, no, no. We're not talking about hurting a child. We're not talking about giving an elderly person a metal ruler with the corner to the face. We're just talking about a light smack on the cheek to let him know he's not allowed to hit me. Because I don't care how old you are, you don't get to hit people. No. You will be restrained, too. If you're in an elderly home and you try to smack the nurse in the face repeatedly, you will be restrained. And the nurse will smack elderly people back, by the way. If you try to hit a nurse in the nose and you make contact, or if you smack a nurse, she will smack you back in the face. She will. I know that for a fact. If you go to a nursing home and you try to beat on a nurse, smacking her around, she'll smack your ass back. Absolutely. But I was supposed to take this shit from my family when they smack me around for no reason other than they're senile and they lost their USB. Then they think I'm putting it in the front pocket, hiding it on them or something. When I come all the way up from the frickin' basement to help them look for it. I'm even yelling up from the stairs, did you check the front pocket? That's where you're supposed to be keeping it. Did you check the front pocket? Did you check the front pocket? That's where it's supposed to be. That's where you're supposed to be keeping it so it doesn't break. Did you check the front pocket? And every time he says, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I come up the stairs. I check the front pocket. It was there the whole time. It was at the bottom corner. Of course, yeah, it's hard to feel in the bottom corner. But instead, he's going nuts because he wants something and he thinks that I moved it on him. It's in his computer bag where it's supposed to be. It's not like you can keep it on the side. They tried that and the damn thing broke. So now it is in where? The computer bag, where it's supposed to be. And that just made him nuts that the whole time it was exactly where I said it would be. But I didn't have any hurt feelings. I smiled, gave it to him. I was happy I was able to get it for him. I was happy that I was able to do the right thing as a good son and help my father out. He's going nuts looking for something. I'm doing my own thing in the basement. I tried to help by telling him to check his computer bag, because that's where it's supposed to be, but he says it's not there. So I'm thinking, well, I didn't take it, so where else could it be? So then I go, it has to be in his computer bag unless Dad used it. So unless Dad is forgetting where he put it, it has to be in the computer bag, because that's where it should always be. So then I go up, I check the front pocket, the only place for a USB stick, and it was there. So I helped out my father. Now he can calm down, relax, do whatever he wants to do, right? No, instead, now he wants to yell at me, call me names, and smack me on the way out. Because I tell him he needs to calm down and stop acting like this, or he needs to follow Jesus, or something like that. It was my version of just telling him to calm down. And I didn't yell at him. I just said, the way you treat me is wrong, or something like that, or you need to calm down, this is inappropriate, or, something like that. Like, on the way out, I said, this needs to stop, you treating me shitty, stuff like that. And none of this ever fazed him. Instead, in his mind, I'm doing horrible stuff to him. Somehow, I'm doing something horrible to him with his USB. I'm hiding it on him in the house. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm an evil son, hiding his stuff, ruining his life. Meanwhile, how about the things he's doing to me at that time? Did I smack him? Did I ever take a hand out of anger and smack my father? When he was smacked me on the cheek for his own USB, did I raise my hand and smack him back? Or did I turn my cheek and let him smack me a second time? And then did I turn my cheek and offer up a third cheek for him to smack again, looking him in the eye and being like, are you done yet? That's what I did. I turned my cheek to him over and over and over until he was done. Meanwhile, what did my father do? He smacked me because he lost a USB, and I helped him find it, and it was right where I told him it was. Most likely it was where it was supposed to be, in his computer bag the whole time. You don't need to lose your mind over that. But I forgave him. I didn't care that he lost his mind over it. I was happy I helped him. I was just going to go back to my thing. He could have just said thank you. But instead, I'm the evil kid hiding his stuff, and that's the delusion in his head, is I'm some evil kid, the cause of all his problems. And so, now that I helped him find something, that means that I must be stealing it and putting it in his computer bag. And now he gotta smack me around, and he wants me out of the house because I'm helping him and smiling. Yeah, go fuck yourself, kid, yeah. And that's his angry self at me, because in his head, I'm some evil kid going around hiding his stuff. I'm the root cause of all his problems in life. Meanwhile, in reality, I'm in the basement, my father's screaming, going nuts, and I just want to help him out. So I first help him by saying, did you check the computer bag? He says yes. And then I try to think of, well, if it's not where it's supposed to be, where the hell could it be? Where the hell could it be? So I go up to check. See if I said, I'll help you. And then for helping him, what do I get? A bunch of anger smacks and everything, and I get told I must be putting it in the bag. I must be stealing it. And I must have, oh no, wait, you didn't say, sorry. This is what he said. You must have just put it there. And no, I didn't. I was in the basement minding my own business, and it was in there the whole time. So these are the type of problems that get these fantasies going in his head. It's his USB is it with his computer in his bag where it's supposed to be. But he's angry and upset, and he's going through what they call an anxiety attack, and that makes it hard to feel and find things. He's also elderly, so he's having difficulty with this. So when I come up and I help him and I find it and I smile that I'm able to help him out and I give it to him, then he gets angry and he starts going nuts. But this is not his fault. This is the fantasies that his wife spun him at the doctor's office and in general for years and years and years and years, that everything in their lives that goes wrong you can just blame on him. He's a liar. He's a thief. He's out to get me. He's doing this. He's doing that. He's doing that. And so any problem in their life, like a USB, is in their computer bag, and they're going through something difficult, like their wife just died. They're having an anxiety attack. They're going nuts because they got to do something, but they can't find the plug, the USB, to get the remote to work. Where could it be? He says he checked the USB, the computer bag, and it's not in there. So I come up and I check the front pocket, the place where the stick should be, and it's there the whole time. The reason why it has to be in the front pocket, by the way, is if you plug it on the side, it kept on breaking. So you have to unplug it when you're done and put it on the front pocket. Because the computer was so large, it just slid into the front. And if you had any of the side USBs still plugged in, it would catch the zipper and break. And then you would have no remote to use. So you don't want to break your father's computer remote. So I had to unplug it every time I went to use it, and it had to go in the front pocket so it wouldn't get lost. And so anytime I used it, I would put it in the front pocket so it wouldn't break or get lost, just like I was supposed to. And that's why I figured it should be in the front pocket, and that's where it's supposed to be. But apparently my father checked that and didn't feel it at the bottom. So I was like, okay, it has to be there. Unless my father used it someplace else, it has to be there. So I went up the stairs and I helped him, and it was there the whole time, so good. But remember, everything in life is my fault. And then they come up with a fantasy. You must be putting it there. Yes, it's all your fault. Yes, everything in my life is your fault. Well, why am I having to live in your fucking house right now? Why didn't I just stay in? Why did you fuck up my fucking housing and my program, huh? Because honestly, you didn't keep your word there. And we could have sticked with that program, and you could have also not drugged me. You could have let me get my education. These are type of things that if you wanted to blame me for your shit, then you should have first done that. If you want to blame me for all your bullshit in life, you first have to at least give me food without food poisoning. You have to make sure that I get an education. You have to make sure you don't have a wife destroying my nervous system, body, my legs, my arms, poisoning me, slipping me pills. We got to make sure your wife isn't having Munchausen syndrome and nobody's getting her help for it. You know, these type of things have to be handled if you want to blame me in life and smack me around like everything's my fault. I actually have to do something. But instead, you want to make me out to be one of these evil kids you see on television, on the crime channels. You watch stuff on TV and go, yeah, that's Zach, yeah. And then you get fantasies in your head going because I have a funny voice and a funny walk. And then they forget about all the decent things I do for them. Like bail them out of trouble, forgive them for stealing inheritances when I really don't care about money. I don't act greedy about money when they're trying to, like, when I went without clothing and I was called the raggedy kid for years on end, and my father was refusing to let me clothing shopping at the age of like 16 while everybody else was allowed to go clothing shopping. Did I yell at my father? Did I hissy fit about his answers? No. I dealt with it. I never acted greedy, not even for my own stuff like clothing. I dealt with the Costco clothing and my father trying to spend it however he pleased and save on clothing budgets here and there. And, oh no, you still have shorts. We don't need to get any more shorts. Stuff like that. I never complained. I never was greedy about it. Not with clothing, not with any of that stuff. I asked for toys, and that's it. And maybe during childhood, before age 12, I might cry a little bit if I didn't get a toy or something. But all kids do that. And it's not like I blame my father because I didn't get a toy. No, not at all. But my father blames me for every single problem in his life. I haven't heard any of the problems that he's had where I've helped him or anything where he has not blamed me for it. Meanwhile, I'm forgiving him up to the age of 32 for fucked up shit. I'm missing 4 years of education. I don't know many people who have a 4 year blank of education. A complete blank. Just 4 years, just completely blank. Just like nothing to use for the next grade. Or they're just non existent lines. Like Via Santa Maria was a program that wasn't built yet up in the mountains of New Mexico, and they didn't have a teacher for about a year that I was in there. I was there for 18 months, and for a whole year's time in there was no teacher, and the other 6 months was breaked up into 3 months and 3 months. So if you add that together, that's useless still. So that's 18 months of useless because you can't. I mean, the first teacher for the first year, well, say for the first 3 months, I mean, well, first year I was there, 3 months she left. But, anyways, the first teacher for the time I was there, here's the problem with the lessons there. We have kids age 6, 7, 8. The 6-year-old left, so then we only got ages 7 all the way up to about 13 at the oldest. And we have one teacher supposed to do school lessons, and she has to commute like 2.5, 3 hours, or I think she said 2.5 hours to get there. And that's 2.5 hours home for her. So she only would give about 3, 4 hours, and she would break it up in an hour for each age group. So 7, 8, 1 hour. Then you get 8, 9, 10, 1 hour, 11, 12, 1 hour, and have the 13-year-old sit in sometimes, maybe on the grade he already did. And there was no possible way, she knew that. So after like only a couple of months, she said, I'm sorry, kids, the commute's too much, I'm not coming back. And to find a replacement to do that, it took them a long time. They did not have a replacement ready. Now, did they tell the parents that they had no replacement for the teachers? No. So what did the Via Santa Maria program do? They ended up putting a bunch of undertrained staff in charge of doing something educational like. And they would do 1 hour of book time every day, where you had to grab a book and sit on the couch. Book time. Didn't matter if you could read the book or not. It only mattered that you held the book and looked at it for an hour. So they would have me looking at pictures in books for an hour. I would ask people to, hey, what's that word? And they would say, shut up, shh, no talking during book time. But I would say, what does this mean? You're not allowed to talk during book time. So I was allowed to just look at pictures and try to stare at words, trying to figure out what they mean for an hour. So think about that. That's what I did for a year and more and more and more because it was just unable to get it. And what do you think they told my parents? They probably sent a bunch of printouts and told them whatever they wanted to hear. They were taking a shitload of money for these programs. It was the fake it till you make it routine. They had stuff to build. They had a whole facility to build. It wasn't built yet when I was there. It was just a cabin. It was good enough to maybe be a summer camp for a week. That's it. It was only built for maybe a summer camp type structure. But they were trying to open up like a attachment disorder hospital. But it wasn't built yet. They didn't have the facilities. They didn't have a teacher. They didn't even have proper doctors. The guy who owned the place was a psychiatrist that actually had a investment in the place. And you saw him, what, once a month? Once a week? And he didn't care. He had a little counter. All I ever wanted with him was the counter. I mean, he was pretty useless when I told him shit. When I told him there was problems, he never told my parents about it. We never had conversations about it when I told him Toby hurt me. He tried to make it sound like that Toby hurting people or the other girls or something was no big deal. That's not a proper psychiatrist. You got a guy choking out a little girl in the shower, and I told him about how that bothered me and bothered Christina Stiers, that we heard about that and we could hear it from the other room, and that Toby went in there to restrain her in the shower, and we could hear her struggling to even breathe. And he's a male, big ass guy. She's 7. And both of us felt so bad, we told the therapist. And you know what he did? Cover it up. He has a place to support. He needs money. He doesn't want a lawsuit. They have no teacher. They're not telling the parents shit. And then what do my parents do? They take it out on me. Yes, I go through that. And then they take it out on me. So don't forget about that when talking to my father or family. Any of their problems are my fault. And then they try to act like in reverse. They'll say, oh, Zach just blames us for stuff. No, I forgive them for stuff. And then I talk about it. And I ask them that, we need to have a discussion about this. I let it go. I don't blame them. I let them smack me around. I let them do bad stuff to me. I sit there and take it. And now we need to have a discussion about it and what we're going to do about these doctors. Because these doctors need to be fixed. The rest of it, fine. You want to get away with that, treating me like shit? Fine, you got away with it. But you don't get away with hurting my family, cutting off my jobs, cutting off my doctors, having fantasies on my medical report. Sorry, you don't get away with that. That's a lifetime of pain and suffering right there. That has to be fixed. But the rest, the stuff they did, I'm not blaming them. I know they did it. It hurt. It affected the mind badly. But they already got away with it. They already got forgiven. I already sat there and took it and moved on. I can't, every time they hurt me, I was told to just move on. They hurt you again, just move on. They hurt you again, just move on. So that's what I was taught to do. And that's already been done. So it's not like I'm trying to blame them and I'm out to get them. This is just what happened. This is my life story. But as far as the future goes, they're still causing damage in my life, and that shit needs to be fixed. There's no excuses for letting doctors be misinformed for that long and your son having an epileptic disorder, having seizures, and not getting medical care. There is no excuses for letting that continue at the age of 32. I'm going to the doctors. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to. They're the ones who haven't done what they're supposed to. They have lied and manipulated their whole lives to the doctors when it comes to me. Never, ever have they been honest about what they've been doing. Instead, they try to tell them what I've been doing and then add on a pile of bullshit on top of it. Like if I was trying to light a match to look at it on the floor, my mother would add and manipulate and twist minds and get me to repeat shit and do all these horrible things. If I won a swimming medal, I'd be at the doctor's office crying, really sad because my mother is stealing my accomplishments. That I treaded water. That was my medal. I did the deed. I won. I did it better than other kids. Why does my mother get to keep my medal? And I won that in the orphanage. What is it? How does she have any right to to steal away my orphanage medal? I don't understand this. So I'm crying and crying. But my mother commits fantasies. She commits an illegal act. She misinforms the doctor and she tries to get me on drugs. And I think she was doing this on purpose because she had a plan in mind to get me on Social Security, and she had Munchausen syndrome. She liked to try to make people think I was sick, or she tried to make me sick, and then she would try to just make me better, then make me sick, then make me better, then make me sick, and she loved the attention from it. And that's a big problem. But nobody helped me, nobody helped her. Instead, I got blamed and hurt. Instead of getting help, I got hurt repeatedly, worse and worse. Still today, if I have a seizure on the side of the road, I get hurt. But then, also, I get brought to the emergency room and the doctors cause more injuries on the way out because of my mother's and father's story. They can't get a read on what's going on. They have no idea. But then again, I was brought to so many states that what do these doctors have to really work with? Just a bunch of bullshit from my mother and father. And then when I try to explain what happened, it just sounds crazy. I mean, my family's so fucking crazy. It is hard to explain what they did. It is so hard to explain that crazy behaviors. It is so hard. It really is. Like how to explain how somebody is lying about you lying. How hard is that to explain? Well, she lied about me saying I'm a liar, and she used to say I'm a fantasy spinner when she was spinning fantasies about my swimming medals. And then the doctor's like, I'm confused. She what? So she used to go to doctor's offices, and this is how I got put on medication. Then I had an overdose, and that's when it started, Doc. That's when it started. When she started drugging me, I had the overdose, and I think it's under my medical file as mysterious allergy attack. A mysterious, and where would I get these records? You would have to ask my father where they get those records. He's been keeping the name of those doctors a secret from me for years. I've asked him, he won't give me the names. So you're going to have to try to see if you can figure out how to get those records. I mean, they go all the way up through Texas and a little bit in Chelmsford, but he's the one that would know where those records are. I mean, they didn't want it looked into, though, Doc. Remember, they try to hide it. So they never, ever once wanted to look into this mysterious allergy attack, even though really it's very obvious something was mysterious about it, and I had to figure it out all on my own. I thought it was allergies for a while, and I did say it was still going on. It was very clear it was still going on. The movement issues, I had no idea if it was connected or not. All I knew was my body changed that day. That's all I knew. And I knew something was awful going on. But with all the meds and all the doctors and all my mother's stories and my father blaming me with my mother for everything and me believing for the longest time, I thought everything was my fault. If something went bad in my brother's life, I thought it was my fault. If something happened bad in my mother's life, I thought it was my fault. If something bad happened in my father's life, I thought it was my fault. I thought the world's problems were my fault, the way my mother and father treated me. It became a sinking, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And people would be like, why? You didn't do anything. I would be at school and I would be apologizing for stuff. And the teachers would be like, why are you apologizing? You didn't do anything. And I would be like, I don't know. My mother says this and my mother says that. And it's my fault. And then the teacher would be like, no, it's not. There's just lots of examples of those type of situations coming up where I was brainwashed into believing I should take responsibility for my mother's and father's mistakes or things they were doing. And that's the problem. I was very confused as my father and mother would try to spin me fantasies, like my mother would try to convince me I have diseases I don't have. I even was convinced that if I was sad after a girlfriend broke up, that was my depression coming through. Yeah, if I'm sad that my girlfriend broke up with me, that means that's my depression coming through, and that's not normal, my mother said. It's not normal to cry after your girlfriend breaks up with you. I got over it over in about a day. So it's not normal to cry for one day because you lost your relationship and then move on? Huh. See, these are the things that we could have had good conversations about. My mother or father could have sat me down they eventually did have a conversation with me, and my mother and father did talk to me about there'd be other women and that she just wasn't right for you and things